I never expected that he would decide to take it upon himself. It's been a while since I've felt this way, wrapped in a sense of security, enveloped in coziness, and embraced by desire. Maybe not in the slightest. The arrival of the pregnancy was a surprise, a twist in the tale that no one saw coming. Yet, the betrayal pierced the heart with a profound ache. Peter's rejection and his sudden exit left a vast void in my existence, a chasm I feared I might never be able to cross. I had expected confusion, anger, maybe even resentment. But never the complete absence of connection. Not from the one who once promised to cherish me through every storm. "You're pregnant?" he asked, his expression inscrutable. I had nodded, bracing myself for the words that would follow. Peter took a deep breath, his hands sweeping across his face before resting confidently on his hips. He stared at the floor for what felt like an eternity, as if the answer to every mystery lay hidden in the worn fibers of the carpet beneath us. And then, in an instant, he looked at me with eyes that felt foreign and unfamiliar. "Alas, Susie, this feels beyond my reach." That was the last word he spoke before he departed. "There shall be no discourse." Absolutely. There was no concern for what lay ahead. At first, I comforted myself with the thought that he would come back. He found himself engulfed by a wave of emotions. Maybe, in time, he would approach the door, acknowledge his mistake, and propose that we could find our way through this journey side by side. And so, the relentless march of time pressed on. Then, weeks passed. The ring he left behind sat quietly on the dresser, untouched and waiting. A haunting echo of everything that had slipped away from me. I should have fallen apart. Maybe I would have. Had it not been for Colin. My son had always been a figure on the periphery. From a tender age, he carried within him a quiet strength, a loyal spirit that set him apart from those around him. He had always preferred the weight of silence over the lightness of idle words. Yet, when he spoke, each syllable carried weight and intention. As he guided me into my seat that evening, his hands firmly placed on the table, his gaze remained steadfastly locked onto mine. I came to understand that his words were not just a balm for my emotions. He promised me that I had company in this journey. "I shall take care of you." I let out a shaky breath, my fingers trembling around the mug I held tightly. "Colin, you need not utter a single word." His voice flowed steadily, calm and assured. "I just want you to know about that." And he genuinely felt it in his heart. From that moment onwards, he became a constant presence. At first, I tried to convince myself that I was fine, that I could manage everything on my own. Yet, Colin would not permit me. At first, he concentrated on the subtle nuances, presenting me with a cup of tea. On that morning, before I even stirred from my slumber, I made certain to nourish myself, even when the desire for food had completely faded away. He was by my side at every doctor's appointment, seated beside me in the waiting room. His knee danced softly, rising and falling with a gentle rhythm. His fingers tapped gently on his thigh, weaving a soothing rhythm that enveloped me in warmth. Then I was ready to admit. The very first instant he beheld the tiny form revealed on the ultrasound screen, he exhaled sharply. His hold tightened around my hand. "She exists in the truest sense," he whispered softly, as if sharing a secret with the air around him. The physician radiated warmth. "She exists." Colin cast his gaze in my direction then. His expression held a softness I had never seen before. "Susie is truly exquisite." In that moment I understood. A flicker danced in his eyes, making my heart stumble in its rhythm. A feeling of pride and unforeseen affection, and a gentle loyalty that caught me off guard. Perhaps Peter's departure was a serendipitous twist of fate, as a result of Colin's choice to stay, and in a manner that held great importance. It wasn't just the doctor's appointments. It enveloped everything. On those days when weariness enveloped him, Colin took charge of dinner. Essential ingredients for a delightful beginning: grilled cheese, scrambled eggs, and toast. Yet, he started to invest greater effort, embarking on a quest for culinary creations and engaging in delightful experiments. A collection of delightful dishes that never failed to light up my spirit. One evening, he declared with a flourish, setting a plate of pasta before me. I gazed upon it, then shifted my gaze elsewhere. That individual. Ah, the pasta, crafted by your own hands. With a gentle smile, he tenderly massaged the nape of his neck. Once upon a time, I prepared a delightful dish of pasta, lovingly drenching it in a rich, flavorful sauce. Yet, it can be consumed. I laughed. A true laugh that came from the heart. At long last, after what feels like an eternity. And then, in a heartbeat, the world transformed. At first, the path was shrouded in uncertainty. It lay within the delicate nuances. The manner in which he watched me, convinced I was oblivious to his gaze. He spoke my name, soft and measured, as though it were a treasure beyond compare. Colin had never called me Mum. Not since his early days of innocence. It started as an unusual pastime in his early years. He had just made his choice. Before the word Mum ever took hold, my name was already woven into the fabric of everyday life, transforming into something familiar and routine. It never troubled me. In a way, it consistently nurtured a sense of collaboration among us. As if we were companions journeying through life side by side. Yet now, every time he spoke my name, it sent a thrilling shiver racing down my spine. Susie, a moment of pause is essential for you. Once upon a time, there was a character named Susie. Let me lend you a hand. Oh, Susie. Today you radiate beauty like never before. The last one genuinely caught me off guard. I found myself before the mirror, lost in the act of rubbing. As I smoothed lotion over the gentle curve of my belly, my oversized jumper cascades softly around my figure, embracing me in its warmth. My skin was changing, my body was growing. And I had been feeling something unique. Colin stepped inside, halting in the threshold. His gaze held mine, thoughtful and intentional, as if weaving a tale between us. And then he had spoken it aloud. You radiate beauty. I turned to him, taken aback, searching his expression for even the slightest trace of humor. And yet, there was nothing. Quiet confidence that soothes the soul. A warmth enveloped me, an unfamiliar sensation, something fraught with danger. After a long stretch of silence, a spark of recognition finally found its way to me. And that sent a chill down my spine more than anything else. I tried to brush it aside. The manner in which he looked at me. The gentle touch of his hand as he helped me rise from the couch lingered in the air, a moment suspended in time. He always seemed to linger close by. His presence serves as a steadfast anchor, grounding me and keeping me from coming undone. Yet, in the quiet of the night, when the house lay in stillness, the weight of my solitude pressed heavily upon me. Once upon a time, there were ribs. The thought lingered, refusing to fade away. Reflecting on him was not right. It was destined to happen. Colin was my beloved child. But then, why did it feel so distinct in this moment? What stirred my heart to quicken when his fingers brushed against me? What was it about being in his embrace that wrapped around me like a warm blanket? I sensed it was something far more profound. In that moment, I was enveloped in uncertainty. In a moment of uncertainty, pondering the path that lies ahead. Colin was always there. A constant figure in the tapestry of life. In each instance of my vulnerability, he remained steadfast and resolute. In moments of doubt, he stood firm and resolute. He had become the bedrock of my existence, my steadfast anchor, my everything. It all started with the tiniest of details. The manner in which his hands lingered. A gentle pause as he helped me to my feet. The way his voice softened with a tender lilt as he spoke my name. In those moments, when fatigue wrapped around me like a heavy cloak, he would gently massage my weary feet with such care. His fingers possessed a remarkable strength, yet soft and tender. Do you find pleasure in that? As I settled into the couch one evening, my swollen ankles propped up, he leaned in and whispered softly. In his gentle grasp, I let out a slow breath, allowing my head to lean back. Indeed, without a doubt. He chuckled gently, his fingers pressing into the weary muscles. I think you would find it advantageous to let me take care of you a bit more. I already do, I whispered, my eyes gently close, surrendering to the embrace of slumber. I should have stepped in. I ought to have said something, to have urged him to cease gazing at me in that way. To have asked him to refrain from touching me like that. Yet, I found myself unable to do so. Each caress wrapped around me like a comforting embrace. Every word echoed with a comforting embrace. And I had wandered through an endless expanse of solitude. Colin held his gaze steady upon me. His gaze held steady, unyielding in its intensity. Overflowing with a hidden richness I wasn't ready to recognize. One night, as I lay in bed, wrestling with the quest for a comfortable position, I felt the bed dip beside me. I turned my head, expecting to see worry carved into his features. Instead, there existed a deeper essence, something far more profound. Susie, he murmured, his fingers dancing lightly across my abdomen. Can I? I took a deep breath, nodding in understanding. He lowered himself, softly placing his lips against my stomach, with such tenderness and respect that my breath caught in my throat. Your strength is truly remarkable. He whispered gently against my skin. Truly breathtaking. My fingers trembled as they danced through his hair, feeling the warmth of his breath upon my skin. Colin looked up at me then. His eyes held a profound darkness that I found impossible to overlook. He placed his lips gently on my forehead, holding there for a moment that stretched into what felt like forever. I should have shared something. I should have urged him to cease. Yet, I decided to close my eyes and embrace the experience that awaited me. When the nurse proposed a parenting class, I nearly erupted in laughter right there in front of her. I had already raised one child, I remarked, shifting uneasily on the examination table. I feel confident that I grasped the essence of my choices. He bestowed a gentle smile upon those around him. This moment carries a unique weight. Does it not? Receiving support is undeniably advantageous. I almost revealed to her that I was without anything to offer. Peter had departed, and here I stood, confronting this solitude on my own. Yet, I was not alone. Colin accompanied me on this journey. When he extended the invitation for us to embark on this journey together, I eagerly embraced the opportunity. With a sense of wonder, I found myself speaking as we entered the community center. With a casual grace, he replied. His hand rested softly on my lower back. A tender gesture that spoke volumes. The room overflowed with couples. Mostly youthful pairs. Excited, nervous, glowing with that unmistakable new parent energy. They exchanged joyous laughter. With their fingers intertwined, they shared soft whispers while the instructor spoke. Narrated. Colin drew out a chair for me, then settled in beside me, our knees gently brushing against each other. At first, it barely crossed my mind. Then the instructor beamed at us and remarked on the sheer joy of seeing partners set forth on this adventure together. I braced myself. I prepared to speak up and set the record straight. To reveal to her that Colin was my son, not merely my companion. Yet, Colin arrived before I could make it. He smiled, weaving his fingers through mine, creating a moment that felt like magic. Indeed, it truly is. Quieted. He grasped firmly. And even worse, I remained right there. Throughout the remainder of the class, the instructor spoke to us with an intimacy that felt reminiscent of a romantic relationship. She shared her wisdom on the journey of co-parenting, on offering comfort through those restless nights, and on nurturing love even with the new arrival of the little one. With every mention of love that slipped from her lips, Colin's fingers curled around mine, a little tighter each time. As we ventured into the night air, my thoughts danced like leaves caught in a tempest. "Colin," I said, releasing my grip. "They thought we were a pair." His lips curled into a gentle smile, hinting at untold tales waiting to unfold. "I see what you mean." I looked upon him, expecting a light-hearted laugh to ease the strain. Yet, he decided against it. Instead, he drew nearer, his fingers softly brushing against my cheek. "Susie," he whispered softly, his voice steady and calm. "Why not?" I swallowed hard. "Why not choose a different path instead of the one laid out before you? Why not take a chance on it?" And then, a blink. "Colin, it appears there may be a misunderstanding in your perspective. I have moved beyond the notion of being your perfect counterpart. I kindly ask you to avoid making that statement." His voice resonated with unwavering determination, his hands gripping mine firmly. "Age is just a number. Once upon a time, there was a character who embarked on a journey filled with wonder and discovery, fully equipped in every aspect." I shook my head, trying to break free, but he held on tightly, unwilling to release me. Susie listened intently to my words. His voice carried the weight of deep emotion. "I cherish you. My heart holds you dear, and this precious little one fills me with joy. And I long for us to be a family." I parted my lips. Yet silence wrapped around me like a thick fog. He vowed to care for her as if she were his own. His grip tightened, as if he were afraid I might slip away into the shadows. "I shall hold you dear, and I shall hold her dear for all the days that grace my life. Let me weave my magic and handle this for you. Let me take care of you." Emotions burned fiercely within me. This was not destined to happen. He was the light of my life. Yet, when I beheld him, he had transformed in my perception. No longer merely a boy. A man lingered in the distance, ever watchful. A man who had come forth when others had yet to arrive. A man who held me dear, with every beat of his heart, in a way that was unlike any love I had ever known. My lips trembled with unspoken words. "Colin, are you truly sure?" His thumb. I brushed aside the lone tear that had traced its path down my cheek. In all my days, I have never encountered a feeling of such unwavering certainty. I let out a quivering sigh. My heart quickened with anticipation. My thoughts clamored within me, urging me to refuse, to voice the sheer absurdity of it all. Alas, we found ourselves at a standstill. Yet, in that moment, he lowered himself, his forehead gently resting against mine. "Just take a chance," he whispered, with warmth and grace. For the very first time in my life, I permitted myself to explore the notion. I let my imagination drift, painting vivid pictures of what it could be like to be a part of his world, to encounter affection in a manner so deeply moving, to seek the warmth of companionship once more. Rather than retreating, I decided to shut my eyes. And I grant myself permission to descend. There lies a fog of uncertainty surrounding the very moment it unfolded. Maybe it was the way Colin always appeared to grasp my needs before I even had the chance to express them. Maybe it was the way he consistently remained by my side. His hands were ever present, a constant source of support, always ready to steady me, to hold me close, to serve as a gentle reminder that solitude was not my only companion. Maybe it was the way he looked at me, as if I were a treasure, something worthy of awe and reverence. Yet, at some point, without even realizing it, in a moment that felt like magic, My heart began to dance with the sweet embrace of love. Not with the thought of him. Not with the truth that he stood alone, the last one left in the tale. Yet, with Colin himself. With his gentle embrace. His quiet strength. His unwavering commitment, his steadfast allegiance, his deep affection. Once upon a time, in a world filled with wonder, there was a tale waiting to be told. The most lamentable facet. Little did I know, a tale was quietly unraveling around me. The moment our lips met, it was a kiss like no other. I took the first step in starting it all. The hour had grown late, well beyond the stroke of midnight, and slumber danced just out of reach. A dull ache pulsed through my back, while my legs weighed down like lead, swollen and weary from the day's toil. No matter how I shifted and turned in my bed, comfort slipped through my fingers like sand. I released a gentle sigh, my hand tracing the curve of my belly. The infant gently prodded, softly as though it sensed my annoyance. A gentle rap resonated through the quiet of my bedroom door. Once upon a time, there was a character named Susie. Colin's voice flowed gently, each word carefully chosen. Is your mind alert and ready to embrace the unfolding tale? It would have been wise for me to suggest he retreat back into his dreams. I should have sent him departing. And so, with a gentle invitation, I whispered, "Enter." The door let out a haunting creak as it opened, unveiling him, gracefully nestled in the gentle embrace of the hallway's soft shadows. His hair was disheveled from slumber. His gaze, heavy with concern, lingered in the shadows of uncertainty. "Are you all right?" he asked, stepping in a bit closer. I breathed out softly, as I let my head gently nestle into the inviting embrace of the pillow. Rest eludes me, slipping through my fingers like sand. He nodded then, without a moment's hesitation. He settled himself on the edge of the bed, a moment suspended in time. "What is it that you seek?" I kept my secrets close, revealing almost nothing to him. I almost played the part of someone who had it all together. Yet, I found myself far too weary to put on a facade. Once upon a time, there was a character named Susie. I believed he would take a moment to reflect. I imagined he would highlight that this was far from ordinary. Our intentions were never to see things unfold like this. Yet, he made the decision to refrain. He simply nodded, slipping beneath the blankets beside me. For a fleeting moment, we lingered in that space, the stillness enveloping us like a gentle embrace. His presence enveloped me in a comforting glow, steadfast and resolute beside me. And for the first time that night, I felt a liberation in my breath. Then, with a gentle touch, Colin extended his hand for me. His fingers danced softly across my cheek, journeyed down my arm, and at last settled upon my belly. He traced slow, deliberate circles against my canvas. His touch ignited a thrilling cascade of shivers along my spine. "She moves with grace," he murmured. I gave a slight nod, closing my eyes. "She always changes when I struggle to find my peace. It seems as though she truly comprehends." Colin chuckled gently, his breath a warm whisper against my hair. "She possesses a glimmer of brilliance." Smiled broadly. "She carries that legacy from me." "I love her, Susie," he whispered, his voice rich with emotion. "My affection for her knows no bounds." I shifted my gaze then, looking up at him. His face loomed close, so near I could observe the delicate flutter of his eyelashes in the soft glow, the subtle parting of his lips as he breathed out. And before I could restrain myself, in a moment that felt both fleeting and eternal, I found myself leaning in and kissing him, before I could even think it through. At first, it possessed a soft and tender essence. A brief brush of lips, hesitant and unsure, like a whisper of a moment passing by. Yet he then responded. His hand tenderly held my jaw, His thumb brushed softly against my cheek as the kiss deepened, a moment suspended in time. His lips were warm and gentle, yet a deeper essence lingered just beneath the surface. There is a matter of great importance at hand. Something raw and untamed. It was clear that he had been waiting for this moment, as if it had been written in the stars all along. His longing mirrored my own, burning with equal fervor. As we ultimately separated, we found ourselves both breathless, struggling for air. I examined his face, hoping to catch a glimpse of regret, awaiting the stillness. Yet, all that unfolded before me was a tapestry of affection. Silence speaks volumes. He murmured gently. His forehead gently met mine. A tender connection that spoke volumes. There's no requirement for you to offer any vows to me. Yet, in a straightforward manner. Tell me about your experience. I swallowed hard. Reach out to me. Share it with me, he whispered softly. His lips brushed softly against my temple. Promise me that I share this journey with others. I found myself unable to weave a tale that could mislead him. I found it impossible to fool myself. And so it is. I whispered the only truth I held within me. You are not. From that night onwards, everything changed. I surrendered to it. I stopped pretending that what we had was anything but what it really was. I welcomed his embrace. He leaned in, and I surrendered to the moment, letting his lips meet mine. I opened my heart to him, embracing a love unlike any I had ever known. And oh, how my heart swelled with love for him in return. I treasured the way he showed his affection. The manner in which he spoke to my belly, weaving tales of his day for our daughter, as if she could grasp every single word. It was enchanting how he always appeared to grasp my needs before I even had the chance to express them. Whether it's a warm cup of tea, or a gentle foot massage, or just the solace of another's embrace when the weight of existence became too heavy to bear. There was something enchanting about the way he whispered my name, the way his eyes held me captive, making me feel as though I was the very heart of his universe. I cherished him deeply. My heart held him close, a treasure beyond measure. My affection for him ran profound and true. Little did I know, the moment had slipped away from me, and I was left in the shadows of my own oblivion. One evening, we found ourselves on the couch, his hands gently resting over my belly. When he gazed at me with that silent fervor that always left me breathless, he leaned closer, his voice barely above a murmur, as if sharing a secret. You're lost in thought, aren't you? I gulped. As I looked down, I noticed how our fingers intertwined gently across my stomach. You linger in my thoughts. He flashed a wide smile. Uplifting thoughts. A soft laugh escaped my lips. Intriguing reflections. Colin's fingers softly raised my chin, drawing me into a gaze that held the promise of untold tales. Susie, I would love to hear your tale. I took a moment to reflect. For if I spoke it, there would be no taking it back. Yet, maybe. Perhaps I chose not to take it back. I love you, I whispered. Colin slipped away silently. For a long moment, he simply gazed at me. His breath shallow, his fingers tightening around mine, as if the world around us had faded away, leaving only the intensity of that connection. And so it begins. It arrived with such gentle grace that I almost overlooked it. He whispered, say it again, just once more. A tightness gripped my throat, while a weight settled heavily upon my chest, bringing forth a sense of unease. Yet, I shared it all the same. My heart holds you in the highest regard. A slow, captivating smile blossomed upon his face. And then, just as I was about to speak again, he brought his lips to mine. Deep and thoughtful, overflowing with everything we had yet to express. As he finally pulled away, his hands softly cradling my face, he whispered softly, "You have no idea how long I've been longing to hear those words from you." I let out a shaky breath, leaning my forehead gently against his. We're going to be okay, Susie. He whispered, his thumb softly gliding over my cheek. Rest assured, we will come through this just fine. In a moment that felt like a revelation, I discovered a newfound belief in him for the very first time.